So we are now recording. So we want to say lots of nice things about Christina. So because we know she's going to be listening to this. So hello, Christina. And let's get underway. Now, maybe we just had Rachel join in. Rachel, are you with us?
Yep.
Wonderful. Welcome to the evening call, and thank you for being with us. Very good. All right. Well, let's get underway. This is our final web conference, so I don't want to delay. I want to get right to it. And here's what we have as an agenda. So our focus is going to be the first thing I'm going to ask each of you. And Rachel, I'll bypass you because you, of course, were able to share what you gained from the course when you were at the beginning part of this morning's call. But what I'd love to hear from the remainder of you is just to get a bit of an idea of what you've enjoyed about this course, what you feel has been beneficial. I'd love to hear that from you. Then, as I think I've alluded to in the previous web conferences, we're really going to spend a lot of time looking at sample exam questions and then also talking about the CHBA knowledge exam. That's really going to be the primary focus of this evening's call, to really ensure that you're all as prepared as possible when you go to take the exam. And I'll hopefully be able to answer all the questions that you have about it with just one slide that kind of outlines everything. And then we'll just go through our final steps, go through reminders of our deadlines for both tomorrow night and Thursday night. So let's begin with the first item on the agenda, which is finding out from each of you what you've gained from this course. I hope that you feel it's been beneficial, and I'd love to hear what you feel has been particularly helpful to you as a result of going through the online lessons and being part of the course and doing the simulation competition. So Lindsay, maybe we'll start with you. What do you feel has been valuable to you in being a part of this course?
I think looking at the all the different statements, like the balance sheet and like all the different P&Ls and everything, and having a refresher on those, it's not something that I look at every day in my day-to-day job. So yeah. I think it's really helped to have that kind of come back around and have a refresher on it.
Yep.
So I think that's been the most beneficial.
Very, very good. Awesome. And yeah, I mean, many of you probably haven't spent any time with financial statements, maybe not since college, when you may have had a chance to look at a few in an accounting course. So, and for those of you that have, such as yourself, Lindsay, it's probably just nice to get that refresher and really sort of the applicable use of them too. Not only are you looking at them, but you're looking at them for a hotel that you've been running. So that's great. Thank you very much, Lindsay. What about you, Sylvina? What's been valuable to you being a part of this course?
Well, for me, I've been only in revenue for about a year.
Okay.
I've usually worked in every other department in the hotel, but
okay. Yeah.
I just started in revenue with Debbie, and this has helped me to see, how everything comes together. Yeah. The financial statements and, the big picture of everything, comes together, the forecasting, and then how we do the budget and everything. So
yeah, good.
It's a lot, but it's been great.
Good. And isn't that the truth? You all are experts in your own fields. You all know your own jobs really, really well. But what this has done is probably taken you a little bit outside of your comfort zone, had you spend time learning about things that you don't normally spend any time with in your day-to-day role. And really the whole idea is to give you big picture. So I'm really glad if that's what it's done for you. That's great. And what about you, Jorina? What's been valuable to you? What have you gained from this course?
So I personally thought it was really helpful, just even understanding the importance of forecasting. Yeah. So I work in a really condensed market where on like the corporate sales standpoint, my hotel is kind of one of the biggest players. So like just from a sales side, it's usually, we're always really aggressive, and we always have like this really, this really big idea, and it's usually the finance person or the revenue person or the general manager that's kind of bringing me down to earth a lot. And I think I think this course did that. So kind of understanding, okay, where you're sitting in the competitive set, and even though we have like these lofty ideas as salespeople, we kind of have to conform a little bit and pay attention to the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been like a really, really good exercise for me, actually having to pay attention to numbers and not be so lofty.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So it's stepping outside of your comfort zone and what you know well to be able to really understand the big picture of it and how does it all fit together. And yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's great. Thank you all very much. Rachel shared her takeaway this morning on this morning's call, and we had a lot of really nice takeaways, very similar to some of the ones you've all just mentioned in terms of getting that big picture view and spending time looking at financial statements and just stretching their knowledge. A couple people mentioned about food and beverage. That was an area that was really not very many people's area of expertise. So getting to spend some time in there was also something that was gained. And you have a little more to talk about with some of your colleagues that maybe you didn't think you had much in common with before. So that's great. Thank you all very much. And I hope that I assume everyone came into this course with expectations, and I certainly hope they've been met. And I'm really glad that there's been a nice variety of takeaways. Before we get into the sample exam questions, I want to share with all of you that my intention is actually to share the PowerPoint from this evening's conference call with all of you. So if you have been in the habit of taking notes or just kind of jotting a few things down here and there throughout the web conferences, very happily you can put your pens down because you won't need to today because I am going to share the PowerPoint a little bit later this week so that you have not only the sample exam questions, but you also have all of the information about the knowledge exam. So I'll send that out a little bit later on this week, and that way you'll have it as a reference point. So what I'd like to do without any further delay is get right into the sample exam questions, and we're going to do them the same way that we've done them in previous weeks, where I'd like everyone to use their chat function and try to answer each of the questions. I think I have about 14 of them that I'd like to share with you. And then when I do share the PowerPoint, I'm actually going to add in the 6 other questions that we've reviewed on the previous web conferences so that you really have kind of a full directory of all of the questions that we've gone through. So it'll really help you for studying purposes. So go ahead and get ready with your chat function. And again, you don't have to type out the answer. Just A, B, C, or D is perfect. But let's jump right into those. So here's the very first question. Excessively high employee counts in the balanced scorecard accounts could indicate what? So if you have really high staffing levels, what could that indicate? Okay. A couple answers so far. I'd like everyone to try and answer since we're just the 4 of you. So I have an answer from Dorina, an answer from Lindsay. All right, thank you, Rachel. Sylvina, I'll give you an extra second or two to get your answer in. And really, this is such an applicable question because many of you, maybe not everyone on this call, but certainly many people as part of this course have experienced this. It's absolutely the first answer. So higher guest service, lower GOP. So absolutely, if you have more people working than needed, you're definitely going to have a higher level of service because your guests are going to be really well looked after. But we all know that causes us some hardship when it comes to labor expenses, and that ultimately affects our GOP and can bring it down. Let's go to the next question. An online discounted channel is called what? And you may not remember this from the lessons, but take your best guess at it. You may know this from the job that you do, and then we'll talk a little bit about why I've included this in with the questions. So got a couple answers so far. So don't despair if you got this one wrong. The correct answer on this one is opaque. So a couple of you did get it right. You may not remember this from the lessons, and that's because it actually wasn't in the lessons. But the reason why I always throw this question into the sample questions is because it's been known to appear on the exam. So the word opaque implies that you can't see through something. So if you think about some of the online discounted channels, some of those websites where you can go and book a room at a really low rate, but you don't necessarily know what hotel you're booking at, that's an example of an opaque channel or an opaque site. So just kind of make a little note for yourselves, just in case that question shows up, that opaque is the answer that we're looking for. And really, that's about the only question that I've ever heard of that appeared on the exam that wasn't part of the online lessons. So again, that's why I just wanted to flag it with everyone. Next question, which is the formula for the balance sheet? All right, I got a couple different answers for this one, but the correct answer is the first one. It's assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. Yep, so assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. So this would seem like a really good time for me to remind you of something that I probably mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and that is when you go to take the exam, it's an open book exam. And I want to really encourage you to have copies of each of the main financial statements handy. So if you get a question like this, you can literally look at your balance sheet and be able to figure out the formula. Have a copy of your P&L, have a copy of your cash flow statement so that you can use it as a reference point. This isn't a test where you have to memorize everything. You can absolutely have notes handy. So the formula for the balance sheet is assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. Next question. Which statement shows the hotel's current debts to vendors? So how much you owe to your vendors. Where do you find that? All right, I got one answer so far. Okay, another one there. All right. I got three answers, and unfortunately, they are not correct. The correct answer is the balance sheet. So let's talk a little bit about this. The balance sheet is where you're going to see your accounts payable. Your accounts payable represents how much you owe to vendors. When they extend credit to you, it shows up as accounts payable. So you always can see your accounts payable amount on your balance sheet. It's under one of your current liabilities. So the statement that shows your hotel's current debts to vendors is going to be your balance sheet. And if anyone has any questions about these or any questions about my explanation, by all means, just jump right in if something I'm saying doesn't help to explain it well enough for you. Let's go to the next question. In most cases, the least expensive channel reservations cost is which one?
Heidi, I just have a question about this.
Of course, Serena.
The least expensive channel reservation cost, that's the least expensive cost to the hotel, right?
That is exactly right. Yep, the least expensive way someone can make a reservation at your hotel. So, yep, and you all got it right. You're absolutely right. It is a direct call. I mean, it's going to always be the least expensive way that someone's going to make a reservation. And when we talk about least expensive, it's least expensive to the hotel. That's absolutely right, Jolena. So we know that we don't have to pay out as much when someone just picks up the phone and calls us. We also know that in this day and age, that doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's absolutely, we pay out the least amount of money on that type of reservation. Okay, next question. Revenue or income minus departmental expense and other direct costs equals what? All right. Good stuff. Yep, you're all exactly right. That is the formula for calculating our GOP. And of course, you see that on your summary income statement. That's exactly how we get to GOP. Really good. Next one, total room revenue divided by the number of rooms sold equals what? You know, it's funny. We just got a couple of different answers, and those were the exact answers that the group this morning had. They were divided between RevPAR and ADR. I can tell you that is the formula for calculating ADR. So to figure out average daily rate, we take the total room revenue divided by the number of rooms sold, and that gives us our ADR. Okay, next question. Where is this month's profit registered on the balance sheet? We've got one answer so far. I got all sorts of different answers here. All right. Well, two of you got it right. It is retained earnings. So when a hotel makes money, when they make profit, anything, of course, that's beyond all of our expenses, once our expenses are covered, we have profit. It all goes into retained earnings. Sort of envision that it's what is retained, what's kept after everything else has been paid off. So you're always going to find your profit registered under retained earnings.
Heidi, I have a question on that.
Sure, Lindsay.
Is it called something else as well other than just retained earnings? I'm trying to find that on the example balance sheet, and I'm not finding it.
It should be right down in the same area as owner's equity.
Oh, it's all the way at the bottom. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's quite a ways down, but yep, absolutely right. Okay. Let's keep going. Next question. The hotel's GOP or house profit is listed on which statement? So where do we find GOP? GOP. All right, we're divided again, and two of you are absolutely right. It's always found on the summary income statement. So think about your summary income statement, money coming in, money going out, money left over, and that's where you're always going to find your GOP line is going to be on your summary income statement. For those of you that answered cash flow statement, remember your cash flow statement has nothing to do with profit or loss. Your cash flow statement is all about sources and uses of funds. It's the summary income statement or the P&L that's going to give you your GOP or house profit. Okay, next question. On which statement would you find payroll, wages, and employee benefits for rooms division? Yep, you're all absolutely right. That's something that's very specific to a department, so you're not going to find that on any statement other than your departmental income statement. Absolutely right. Okay, next question. Staff retention can affect which of the following? So your ability to keep staff, what does it affect? Wow, I wasn't even finished reading that question and you all answered it. And you're absolutely right. I always say that people, if they've gone through the simulation competition, they know this stuff. So if you can't keep staff, you know your competency levels are or your ratings for competency are going to go down. You know that training costs are going to be affected. And absolutely, if you're constantly having to hire people and you have turnover, you're going to face some big costs associated with that. So it's definitely all of the above. Okay, next question. How is working capital calculated? And this should take you back to, I think it was the second week's lesson where we talked a little bit about working capital. How do you calculate that? What's the formula? I'm not sure if it's just taking an extra bit of time for the answers to come through to me in the chat function, but I got one so far. Maybe some of you are thinking or flipping back through your notes. So this one might not be familiar to you, but this will be a good one to go back and look at again. So I'm seeing a few different answers. The correct answer is actually the third one. When we calculate working capital, it's current assets minus current liabilities. So you may remember from the week 2 lesson that you always want to have positive working capital. That means that you've got money at hand to do things. So it means that your current assets have to be higher than your current liabilities in order to have positive working capital. If you're in a negative situation, that means that you're in a tough position to be able to do things because you don't have working capital at hand. So current assets minus current liabilities. If that seems like a distant memory or you don't quite remember going through it, one of the things I'm going to mention again here shortly is that one of the best ways to study for this exam is to go back into the lessons and go through the quizzes and exercises. And that'll really help to refresh your memory because we've gone through a lot of stuff since 4 weeks ago when you started on the very first lesson. All right, next question. Payments to vendors are registered on which statement? Okay, so we've got a little bit of a variety of answers here. And unfortunately, oh, there we go. Rachel, you got the right answer. So the correct answer is the cash flow statement. So let me explain, because I do get a lot of people that guess the balance sheet on this one, and I'll explain why it's the cash flow statement. Let's remember that our cash flow statement is all about sources and uses of funds. So where are we getting money from? What are we using it for? And what's our cash position? When we pay a vendor, that's where we're using money. So we're spending money, and that's one of the uses of our funds. So the actual payment would get registered on the cash flow statement. Having said that, those of you who replied balance sheet, it makes sense that you said what you did because the balance sheet gets impacted by it. Remember, the balance sheet is where you're going to see your accounts payable number and you're going to see what your total debts to vendors are. However, when you pay down a vendor, the actual payment gets registered on the cash flow. Yes, your balance sheet will be affected, but the payment gets registered on the cash flow statement. All right, I've got one question left. You're going to need to grab out your calculators or the blank piece of paper because it's a little bit of a calculation question. So here we go. A capital investment cost $1 million. Ownership requests an annual 10% return on that investment. If net profit is calculated at 20%, how much of an increase in annual revenue would be required to provide the additional profit needed for a 10% ROI? So take a minute or two. Let's see who can get the right answer on this. If you do get the right answer, I'm going to ask you to explain it to the rest of the group how you reached it. So let me give you a minute and see what you can come up with. All right, I got your answer, Delina. Anyone else have an idea? Okay. All right, Lindsay, I got your answer.
Honestly, Heidi, my guess was it was a guess.
It was a guess. Okay.
I have no idea.
You're already protecting yourself in case you got it right, and I'm going to ask you how you got it. Well, here's the good news, Lindsay. You did get it right. So, so let's talk about this one, and this is a tough one. So if you're having some struggles with this, or you're not sure how this works, let's talk about it together as a group here. So the correct answer is the first one, $500,000. So how do we calculate this? I have a whole slide that shows it, but I'm just going to kind of walk through with this up on the screen. So a capital investment costs $1 million. If ownership wants an annual 10% ROI on that, what's 10% of $1 million?
100,000.
You got it. Okay, so 100,000. So that's how much ownership is going to want back. They're saying, hey, you know what? In order to make this make sense to us, we need to have $100,000 come back to us. Well, bottom line is that can't be all that we make, because if that's all that we make, well, then there's nothing remaining for us. We have to give that 100,000 basically back to ownership. So how much of an increase in revenue is going to be required to be able to provide that additional profit needed for a 10% ROI? Well, net profit is calculated at 20%. So $100,000 is 20% of what number? 500,000. So what this is saying is that in order to be able to hand over $100,000 to ownership, to give them that ROI, we have to actually make $500,000 in order to be able to give that to them and still have that additional increase in annual revenue. So let me show you on a slide here. Let me walk you through this. So 10% of 1 million is 100,000. We all can agree on that. $100,000 is 20% of what number? Well, 500,000. So we need to have an increase of $500,000, knowing that 20% of that is going to immediately need to go back to ownership for their return on investment. Make sense?
That makes so much sense now. It's almost like I feel like I may have gotten it a little better if I had read it backwards.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes that's the way to do it. That's exactly it. Now, let me reassure all of you that if you're reading this question and you're going, I don't get it, I hate math, this isn't fun. The good news is you're probably only going to see a couple of questions that look like this on the exam. So what I normally say to people, because if you're like me, I'm not a big fan of these types of questions either. If you see these types of questions and you get stumped on it, don't take too much time on it, because the exam is timed. So what you can do is you can bypass it. You can come back to it at the end if you have some time, but don't let it hang you up and you end up getting stuck on it and you can't move on to the questions that you're going to be able to answer easily. So that's a good segue to talk about the exam. So the very first thing I want to tell you about the exam before we even get into the specifics about it is how best to prepare yourself for it. Well, I mentioned before that my best recommendation is to go back into each of the lesson links and just do the quizzes and exercises. So that's not going to take you a huge amount of time, but it's going to be a really good refresher of all of the things that you learned in each of the different modules. So that's a really good way to be able to study it. In addition, as I mentioned, make sure you have copies of all of the financial statements printed off. You can do that from either the simulation or from one of the lessons. And that way you have those as a reference point as well and then of course any other notes that you may have taken. The CHBA knowledge exam is all multiple choice, and it's a total of 50 questions. So there's nothing beyond multiple choice on this exam. Your passing grade is 80%, or you have to get 40 correct questions out of 50. So that's why I was saying don't get hung up on a question. If you don't know the answer, you can go buy it, go look through the rest of the exam and try to answer everything, and you can circle back if time permits. You do have a 1-hour time limit for taking the exam. And unlike with the lesson links, you don't have the ability to stop and start it. So it's going to be really important when you go to take the exam that you take it at a time when you're not going to be interrupted and you're going to be able to give it your full focus. It's online, so much like the lessons, you can do it from your office, you can do it from home, you can really do it from wherever you like. But the key being, make sure you're in an environment where you're not going to be interrupted for that 1 hour. Your results will be known immediately. So when you get to the end of the exam, I think there's a button that's submit, and you click on that. Or should you run out of time, it's going to automatically submit for you when it hits 60 minutes. I can tell you the majority of participants in this course have said that they've taken the exam and it's taken them about 45 to 50 minutes. So you should be fine with the 1 hour. But your results will be known immediately. If you pass, well, phenomenal. I'm excited, and that's a great thing. If for any reason you don't pass, I don't want you to be in despair. What I want you to do, because I won't know that you haven't passed, is I want you to send me an email right away. That way, what I can do is I can contact the HSMAI, the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International, and I can ask them to reset your login, and you will have a chance to take the exam again. The key is make sure you're ready before you take the exam. So all of those things I suggested that you do, I strongly encourage you to do that. Review these questions again when I send out the PowerPoint, because there were some that I know stumped a few of you, and that way you can be as absolutely ready as possible and hopefully be able to pass it on the first go. I'll up the ante a little bit and tell you that in the 6 years that I've been facilitating this class, there have only been 2 people to ever get 100% on the exam, so that's a nice thing to strive for. But average grade is anywhere between about 88 and 94. That seems to be the common scores that I see. But again, 80% is your minimum. You must take the exam by November the 13th. So the exam is online. I'm going to be sending out your access to it this coming Friday morning. So that's going to give you a total of 10 days in which you can take the exam. You're not obliged to take it on any one of those specific days or at any specific time. It's whatever works best for you. Now, my recommendation is do it as soon as you feel like you're ready. I tell a lot of people, think about the hour that you might have spent making simulation decisions or doing the weekly lesson or being on the weekly web conference, and use one of those times to take the exam. But you must take it by no later than November the 13th. If for any reason you're going to be traveling extensively or there's some sort of conflict that makes it so that you cannot take it by the 13th, please email me and we'll see what we can do to make arrangements for you to be able to take it at a later time. But the sooner you can take it, the more fresh it's going to be in your mind, and the odds are the more successful you're going to be in taking. I am going to be emailing out your access code on Friday when I send out the final results, which means that if you feel like you're ready, you could even take the exam as early as this Friday. It's completely up to you, but you will have access to take it as of Friday morning. And as I mentioned, once you have passed the exam, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to send me an email, because the results will go immediately through to Kathy Tyndall, who's with the HSMAI. She will send you an email and copy me and copy a couple of folks at Accor Hotels to congratulate you. And she will also let you know that there will be a certificate that will be coming for you. Probably, I think they come in about 4 to 6 weeks, and they'll have that. But you'll be officially designated as having your CHBA. So you'll hear from Kathy. She's really quick on the draw. Even if you take the exam on the weekend, you can expect to hear from her very quickly after you've passed it, because the results go directly into her inbox, and she's really good about keeping an eye on that. So the last thing that I want to say about the exam is, and I thought I had it on my previous slide, but I guess I don't, was just to wish you a lot of luck with it. And again, just make sure that you're ready. It's not a challenging exam in the sense of if you have reviewed the lessons and exercises, and you've gone through your notes, and you've reviewed the PowerPoint I'm going to send you, I feel like you're going to be able to do quite well with it. Take your time with it, and I think that you're going to find that you're going to be able to pass and do quite well. So before I go to final steps, are there any questions or anything that I may have missed that would be helpful for you to know about the knowledge exam? Okay.
I think that's all really useful.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and take it when you're ready. I mean, you've got a 10-day period in which to take it, so take it whenever you're ready to get it done. So let's talk about final steps. What do we have coming up in the next couple days? Well, if you haven't submitted a bid for the Q4 RFP, you must do that by tomorrow night, Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Time. As a reminder, if you had a chance to listen to my feedback presentation and or read the RFP document, you will see that it's not going to be based just on rate. It's going to be awarded based on rate in relationship to your guest satisfaction numbers. So if you have really strong numbers for refurbishment, facilities, services, and guest service, that's going to help you. You may not necessarily have the lowest bid, but you may get the block of rooms. And we've got 2 competitive sets, one in particular where things are very, very close. So this could be the deciding factor. So you want to be very strategic, especially if you have some good guest satisfaction numbers. Then your Q4 decisions are going to be due by Thursday night. That'll be your very last time that you have to submit your decisions. So I'll be cycling the simulation at midnight Eastern Time on Thursday night. And then on Friday, I'm going to be sending through final feedback and final results. So we will know not only who has won each of the competitive sets, but just get a good look at what the final results are. And as I mentioned in my feedback presentation, don't worry if you don't win it. The key is just doing the very best that you're able to and seeing progression from where you started back at the beginning of January. The other thing that I'm going to send you, because I don't have any more lesson links to send you, is I'm going to send you your exam access code. So on Friday morning, you all will receive your access code. And as I mentioned, if you want to take the exam as early as Friday, it'll be available for you to do that. As soon as you get the access code, the exam is open to you. So again, I already wished good luck, and it's good luck for a lot of things. Good luck for simulation decisions, good luck for the exam, good luck for wrapping up everything related to this course. So let's take a trip around the group, so to speak, and just see what final questions there might be, whether it's with regard to the simulation, with regard to the exam, anything at all that I can answer. Silvina, why don't we start with you? Anything that I can answer for you?
No, I just have a lot of studying to do.
Okay, yeah, but that's good. That's good that you know that. And I'll have the PowerPoint to all of you probably on Thursday. I'll send it through, so that way you'll have a copy of it and you'll be able to use it. And I'll probably send it Friday when I send everything else to you. So yep, it'll be a good studying resource. Very good. Rachel, what about you? Any questions that I can answer?
As of right now, everything seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, good stuff. How about you, Jorina?
All good here, thank you.
Wonderful. And Lindsay, how about you?
I'm good. I just need to study.
Okay, fair enough. That's good. Good. Well, let me conclude this by giving a big thank you to all of you. I recognize how busy you all are. The world doesn't stop. Your professional world doesn't stop in order for you to be a part of this course over the last 5 weeks. And I was telling the group this morning, and I'll say the same thing to you folks this evening, of the courses that I've done over the last 6 years, this has been one of the most engaged groups that I've had. And what I mean by that is people being on time, people adhering to deadlines, people being really involved and really doing everything they needed to do in order to get the most out of this. So I want to sincerely thank all of you just for being so actively involved and engaged with this, and really I hope that you got as much as you possibly could out of it. I always love to hear from folks after they've been through this course and hear of their successes and hear about things that they've done in their careers as they continue to move forward. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, I'd be delighted to keep in touch with many of you. And certainly, I always say that, whenever I'm in a city where there's a hotel that someone has been in one of my courses, I always try to seek them out and say a hello. So certainly if I'm in the neck of the woods at any of you, because you're all in places where I could conceivably go at some point in the future, I will most certainly make a point of trying to see you, because I'd love to meet you face to face. So I thank you all sincerely. I'm going to set you free a little early for this final call, and just want to again wish you all the best as you finish up the simulation competition and as you take the knowledge exam. And if there's anything I can do to further support you, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay.
you too.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Heidi.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.